Straight ahead, Republican victory at the Supreme Court. Texas leaders celebrate the ruling by the nation's highest court, allowing the newly drawn 2025 congressional maps to be used for next year's all-important midterm elections. How the ruling could set off some surprising last-minute campaigns here in North Texas. Going for it? Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett will reveal tomorrow afternoon whether she's running for U.S. Senate. Sure seems like it. Democratic and Republican analysts size up the primaries for that marquee race. And signature platform, Governor Gregg Abbott discusses his top priority for re-election to a record fourth term, property tax reduction, plus his thoughts on casino gambling in Texas. Good Sunday morning to you. I'm Jack Fink. Get your fix for Texas politics. Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas starts now. Hello and welcome to Eye on Politics. We've got a jam-packed show, so let's get right to it. And we begin with the redistricting ruling late Thursday afternoon by the U.S. Supreme Court, which allowed Texas to use the newly drawn 2025 congressional maps for the upcoming March primary and for the all-important midterm elections next year. They reversed a lower federal court which blocked the new maps. Republicans declared a legal and political victory because they hope to pick up as many as 5 new congressional seats in Texas, including one in North Texas, at the expense of Democrats. The majority opinion by the 6 conservatives on the court cited timing as a key issue in its ruling in Texas's favor. Their decision came down days before tomorrow's state deadline for candidates to file their campaign paperwork. The filing period began November 8th, and the lower court ruling blocking the 2025 maps came out on November 18th. The majority opinion said, quote, "This court has repeatedly emphasized that lower federal courts should ordinarily not alter the election rules on the eve of an election. The district court violated that rule here. The district court improperly inserted itself into an active primary campaign, causing much confusion and upsetting the delicate federal-state balance in elections." In a statement, Governor Gregg Abbott said, quote, "We won. I spoke with the governor on Thursday, 1 hour before the ruling came down, and he expressed confidence Texas would win because of the timing issue."
Because the election process is so far down the pathway, as we're speaking right now, it's just a few days before the filing deadline. That is a signal that the Supreme Court likely realizes it's too late for them to issue a decision that would interrupt the 2025 maps that were passed this summer. So I would say nothing in life is certain, but it weighs with a higher probability that the 2025 maps that were passed this summer will be the maps that will be used for congressional districts this election cycle.
Democrats, LULAC, and the NAACP are among those who accuse Texas Republicans of illegally racially gerrymandering. The lower court in El Paso ruled in their favor. Texas House Democratic Caucus Chairman, State Representative Gene Wu of Houston, expressed outrage at the majority ruling.
It's beyond disappointing. It's frankly enraging. Because what the allegations were in the lower court were that the Republicans were using illegal racial gerrymandering in this process and to accomplish their goals. And the evidence that supported this were the Republicans' own words.
To your point that the majority said is they talked about the fact that there was no alternative map, that it just went right back to the 2021 map. And Justice Alito, in his concurrence, said that although the respondents, the plaintiffs' experts, could have easily produced such a map if that were possible, they did not, giving rise to a strong inference that the state's map was indeed based on partisanship, not race. How do you respond to that?
So, I mean, this is one of those decisions that we talked about when this bill was on the floor, is like, how do you interact and how do you engage in a process that should be illegal in the first place? Right? How do you join in onto their illegal actions? And if we had done that, if we had offered maps, what they would have said was, well, Democrats cooperated. Democrats offered their own maps. It must be fine if they're offering their own maps as well. This process must not be illegal.
The Supreme Court's ruling will likely spark some surprising last-minute filings for congressional races here in North Texas. In the newly drawn 30th congressional district in Dallas and Tarrant counties, where African Americans are in the majority, a source familiar says Democratic Congressman Mark Vesey of Fort Worth will run in this district. Vesey has represented parts of Fort Worth, Arlington, and Dallas since 2013. Another source says another person considering running into this race is the senior pastor of Friendship West Baptist Church, Dr. Frederick Haynes III. There is now an effort underway to draft him to run for Congress. In the newly drawn 33rd Congressional District will just be in Dallas County and becomes a majority Latino district. Democratic Congresswoman Julie Johnson of Farmers Branch has filed to run here because it includes part of the district she's in now. Former LULAC National President Domingo Garcia, who's also a former state representative and Dallas City Council member, told me he's on the cusp of announcing a run in this district as well. And the newly drawn 32nd Congressional District moves from a Democratic majority to a Republican majority. Republican candidates include Ryan Binkley, Darrell Day, Amy Carrasco, Monty Montanez, and Paul Bondar. And tomorrow, Dallas Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett will announce once and for all whether she's going to run for U.S. Senate and not run for re-election in her House district. It sure looks like she's running for Senate after doing interviews with us and the national media. Our partners at CBS News report that Crockett confirmed she spoke with the Democrats already in the Senate race, former Dallas Congressman Colin Allred, who ran against Senator Cruz last year, and State Representative James Tallarico of Austin. Analysts believe this will likely end up in a runoff election at the end of May. That's the same likelihood in the Republican primary, where incumbent John Cornyn is trying to hold on to his seat against Attorney General Ken Paxton and Houston Congressman Wesley Hunt. We spoke with Matt Engel, director of the Lone Star Project, a Democratic PAC, about Crockett's potential entry into the U.S. Senate race. What impact does this have on former Congressman Colin Allred of Dallas and State Representative James Tallarico of Austin? Who does her entry hurt more?
Oh, I don't know if it hurts one more than the other. I think that since Colin ran last time and was the nominee, that anybody challenging that kind of takes away a vote that he had claimed in the past. But that doesn't mean that he couldn't prevail in this primary. I think it's going to be very competitive. They've got to think in terms of 2 rounds. There'll be a runoff. How do I get to the runoff? And then, what do I do in order to get the support of whoever doesn't make the runoff? And so it becomes 3-dimensional chess at this point, and a challenge for all 3 of them.
Do you think electability is going to become the key issue in this race?
You can define electability a lot of ways. I think that Congresswoman Crockett was responsible in doing a lot of research and making sure that she did have a path. But there's always a little tension within the Democratic Party as to whether you can really raise or grow the electorate large enough in order to win with somebody who's maybe a little bit more progressive than others, or whether or not it's about building a coalition. The history, the track record is Democrats have won competitive races more often when we've been able to build a coalition, kind of run from the middle out. But there hasn't been a candidate in the past like Jasmine Crockett who really excites people and maybe can grow the electorate. We'll see.
We also spoke with Vinnie Minchillo, a Republican consultant, about Crockett's potential Senate run and how she would fare against the Republicans running for U.S. Senate.
I think she's a real polarizing candidate. She's fun to watch, and when she goes crazy on the news, it's always interesting to watch. But I just don't think that's going to work in a general election. I think she is too extreme and too far left for even Texas Democrats.
Do you think she's going to energize Republicans if she is the nominee?
100%. If she gets through and gets to the general, I think she'll help turn out Republicans, because Republicans are not going to be comfortable with that.
So let's talk about the Republican primary. How do you see this shaping up?
Well, it's now kind of similar to the Democrat side. This is definitely going to be a runoff. I mean, we've got, with Wesley Hunt in the picture, he's going to be able to pull enough votes to force this into a runoff.
And so who do you see ending up in the runoff?
Well, we've got a long way to go, and this has already been a nasty race, to begin with.
Oh yeah.
I mean, Cornyn came out of the gate saying that he was going to, take Paxton to the woodshed, but in words stronger than that. So, this has been pretty nasty. Cornyn has spent the summer pounding on Paxton, and he's moved numbers, in his favor, and now we're seeing a little bit of back and forth. So this is going to be really rough. And the Cornyn folks have actually opened a second front, and they're starting to beat on Wesley Hunt. So that's going to be tough, for them to transfer. I don't see a path for Hunt, to be honest with you.
Why not?
I just don't think he can get. He certainly can't get to 50, and I just don't think he can beat either Cornyn or Paxton. Maybe a better chance to beat Cornyn, but I just don't think he can get there unless he's got a lot of money.
Minchillo predicts that between all 6 candidates and their campaigns and third-party groups that support them for both the primary runoff, and general election, this race alone could cost at least $750 million, $750 million. Coming up, Governor Gregg Abbott discusses his signature platform for re-election, property tax relief, plus his comments on casino gambling when Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas returns. Welcome back to Eye on Politics. Governor Gregg Abbott is making property tax reform his top priority as he runs for a re-election and a record 4th term. The governor is crossing the state to talk about his proposals, including a stop in Fort Worth on Thursday and in Frisco 2 weeks ago. His plan would limit local government spending growth to population and inflation, or 3.5%, the lesser of the two. Require 2/3 approval on all local property tax increases, and allow voters to call for a rollback election to lower property taxes. He would also cap appraisal growth to 3%, appraise all properties once every 5 years, and he's calling for a constitutional amendment to eliminate school property taxes on homesteads. On Thursday, I asked Governor Abbott about his plan, plus he made some news on casino gambling. But I started with his quest for a 4th term.
There's no state in America that's doing better than Texas is right now. I've been the governor presiding over the best economy in the United States for the past decade. We rank #1 in the most new jobs, #1 in opportunity, #1 in growth. And so economically, Texas is positioned very well. But also when you look at what we are seeking to achieve, this past session, we put Texas on a pathway to being ranked #1 in education, in addition to all the #1 rankings we have economically. We're also keenly focus on making sure we keep our state safe. Look at the contrast between the Biden years and what we have right now on the border, for example. But know this, Jack, and that is because of what I did as governor to make sure we had a secure border. We were able to reduce illegal immigration into the state of Texas by 85%. And fentanyl deaths have declined over the past year by 40%. All of this is because of strategies I helped put into place. We need leadership like that that gets results for the people of the state of Texas. Today, I'm outlining ways in which we can ensure that we're going to cut property taxes by about 2/3 when I get past this next session, the plan that I announced today.
I wanted to ask you about your property tax reform. This is your signature bill. This is your signature policy for re-election. And so one of the ideas you have to allow voters to eliminate school property taxes on their homesteads. And I'm wondering, you would have to do that through a constitutional amendment. And first of all, are you going to get 100 votes in the House that you need to pass it? And as far as the scenario, how are you going to fund schools?
All right. So with regard to getting the votes needed, it will require a constitutional amendment, which requires 2/3 of both the House and Senate. A lot of people think, well, gosh, it's going to be easy, and it should be easy. I know this is one of those 90-10 issues where 90% of the people want the way that I cut property taxes to pass. That said, we still need to get Democrats and even some Republicans to go along with this. The way we are able to pay for it is through the budget surplus that we run year after year after year. Our annual surplus exceeds the amount that it would cost for the state to fully fund education if we implement the cuts that I'm proposing.
So over how long of a period, though? Because I've talked to experts about this even years ago when this really first came up, and they said doing it responsibly, it's going to take 2 decades to do it. Are you saying that's not true?
Well, so probably the formula that you talked to them about is if you eliminated the school district property tax for all property tax payers, not just homesteads. And there's a huge math difference between the two. If it just includes the homesteads, and if you look at the last 4 years, we've had far more budget surplus than is needed to make sure we make our schools fully funded. The reason why I use only the last 4 years is because the 2 years before that had the 2 years after COVID, where the states got so much money that the budgets were outsized. I'm using post-COVID money time periods when our budget was plentiful. And when you look at our growth trajectory, we're going to have plenty of income to make sure we're going to be able to pay for these property tax cuts.
Without raising any other taxes?
Without raising a single penny of new taxes.
Sales tax and other fees, et cetera?
Every tax that currently exists, let me say it this way, no tax that currently exists would need to be increased in order to pay for this.
Now, another one of your proposals is to cap the appraisals. So people's businesses and homes, I guess, would be appraised once every 5 years. And then the appraisal would be capped from 10 now to 3%. And I've talked to other people about this, some of them conservatives, and they bring up California Proposition 13, and they say it didn't work so well out in California. So how will you prevent that from happening, the real estate market being distorted, people incentivized to stay in their homes, and then there's fewer homes on the market, and that raises prices?
Sure. California is a false narrative. The 3% per year appraisal increase limitation, Florida has that. And the Florida real estate market is thriving like the Texas real estate market is thriving. And so it can be done. It's just a matter of willpower to get it done. You know, I'm tired of the naysayers saying, oh, we can't do it for this reason or that reason. It's time for all the naysayers to pay attention to the 90% of Texans who want this done. It's time that we start listening to and be responsive to the homeowners in this state, that we do the thing that needs to be done to actually cut their property taxes.
Have you gotten pushback from Republicans? Because you said that at the, when you started.
Some ask questions, how are we going to pay for it? And the more I explain it, and the more they realize that what I'm saying is substantiated, the more they're going to come along the side. But it's a process, and we're going to make sure we get it done. Now, I'm going to be on the campaign trail making sure we elect Republicans who are going to support actually delivering real property tax cuts, lasting property tax cuts for our fellow Texans.
You've condemned CARE, Muslim Brotherhood, Sharia law, the Epic community, the Meadow, and I'm wondering, what do you say to everyday Texans who may be of the Muslim faith, and how do you distinguish that between going after those other organizations?
The distinguishing factor is those who embrace terrorism and those who are against terrorism. Easy example is what just happened last week here in the Dallas area. Last week, there was somebody who had sponsored and provided material support to terrorism, who was in the United States illegally from Jordan, ordered deported. And who came to his aid and support? CARE came to the aid and support of someone who's being deported because they gave material support for terrorism. They should stop supporting terrorists if they don't want to be categorized as a terrorist sponsor.
Casino gambling. This issue has come up, it's going to keep coming up, and I'm wondering, where are you about the idea of changing the Texas Constitution to allow it through a limited number of resorts?
Yeah, I'm not there yet. I'm simply not there yet.
Why not?
Because we've seen increasingly problems that go along with gaming, whether it be addiction, or whether it be things that are happening in sporting events and athletes who are on the take. And so there have been more red flags raised that cause us to have to pause, step back, take a look at this, and make sure that we wouldn't do anything that would be harmful either to the people of the state of Texas, the culture that we have in the state, or to sporting events that we have in the state.
As we've reported, there are a number of Democrats running for governor as well. They include Andrew White of Houston, who ran in 2018. He's the son of former Governor Mark White. State Representative Gina Hinojosa of Austin is also running, as is former Houston Congressman Chris Bell, who was the Democratic nominee for governor in 2006 against Governor Rick Perry. Up next, Trump accounts, what they are and what they mean for newborns, and could Texas offer its own version? When Eye on Politics on CBS News Texas comes right back. They're called Trump accounts. The federal government will be giving newborns $1,000. Sarah Jenkins explains how it will work in the brief.
Trump accounts are a new type of tax-deferred investment vehicle for U.S. children created under President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. It promises $1,000 seed contributions from the federal government for eligible kids. The accounts will be available for children born between January 2025 and December 2028. From the Dell donation, qualified kids 10 and under can receive $250 in an account structured like the Trump accounts. Qualified kids are under 10 who live in zip codes with a median family income of $150,000 or less who won't get the $1,000 seed money from the Treasury. Parents or guardians must set up and manage the Invest America account until a child turns 18, and funds cannot be withdrawn from the account before the child turns 18. The Invest America accounts will launch next year. For The Brief, I'm Sarah Jenkins.
Remember, you can watch our full interview with Governor Abbott and all our other full interviews from this week's show on our CBS Texas YouTube page. And while you're there, please hit the subscribe button. And that's all for Eye on Politics this week. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jack Fink. I am listening, and we are listening to you at CBS News Texas. I'll see you next week, and from all of us here, have a great Sunday.